Hello everyone, my name is ToasterXD, and today we're going to be going over the topic that is Vegeta versus Thor, another manga versus comic versus battle. It's been almost 2 years since I talked about manga versus comics with Goku versus Superman, and for the most part I think most people have the logical answer to that debate as a whole at this point. But one thing I've never covered on the channel is Vegeta versus Thor, the Prince of the Saiyans versus the Prince of Asgard. With me today, I have the man who's a rogue in the flesh. Say what's up.
Yo, what's up with y'all?
And for the Vegeta side of things, I'll be using the Super Anime and Manga since the anime stops at the Universe Survival arc respectively.
And for me, I'll be using the version of Thor from Marvel Comics. No MCU version or God of War version. Strictly mainstream Thor in the continuity of Marvel Comics. Getting straight to it, Odin gives us a pretty solid baseline for understanding just how powerful Thor is. Odin, the quote-unquote all-powerful and mightiest Norse god, scales directly to Surtur, whose flames were going to annihilate and engulf the entire Yggdrasil. The Yggdrasil encompasses the entire multiverse, as well as the crown that sits atop creation. This would include god realms like Asgard, since it is one of the 10 realms atop the tree, with Asgard being consistently stated to be beyond concepts like time and space. The Yggdrasil is also shown to contain cosmic beings like the Living Tribunal, and also Watchers, beings who operate on levels of existence so vast and complex that they deal in transfinite levels of reality, passing judgment from positions beyond any type of human comprehension. Heimdall, whose sight can perceive the limitless subspace of the negative zone, and someone who can see beyond any known form of measurement, tells us that the Yggdrasil is infinite in its complexities. This is important because the subspace of the negative zone has a limitless or infinite number of higher dimensions and actually encompasses Heimdall's range of vision. There's also the fact that Seth mentions the Yggdrasil containing infinite planes of time and space, while also holding every dimension in the multiverse. Seth would actually go on later to duke it out with Odin, and their battle itself started tearing apart the entire multiverse. Hell Lords like Mephisto actually have a unique existence to their realms, or netherworlds, to the point their power is absolute while in it. You kind of see stuff like this in God of War, like Hades, and his power being absolute in the underworld, but in Marvel, netherworlds pertain to all dimensions and transcend them infinitely. Odin is actually stated twice to be Mephisto's equal, and actually nullifies Mephisto's own power in his realm, showing that he scales to this level of strength. Another key feat for Odin was being able to defeat the god Tempest. This cosmic storm is one of the 4 elder gods, being so powerful that its gales were stated to shape creation or the multiverse itself. He ended up managing to trap the god Tempest inside a primordial substance called Uru, which is the same metal used to forge Mjolnir. Thor and Odin can actually withstand and endure direct blast from the god Tempest for prolonged periods of time and actually remain intact. Where all of this ties into Thor's scaling is essentially in Thor's run in 2018, Odin himself actually narrates that Thor is the greatest god to ever live. It's often debated about if this is just in regard to his virtues and the ideal qualities Thor has as a god, or it's solely being in regard to like Thor's power. However, I see both of those interpretations being referenced here, so if you were to actually agree with that, Odin, the mightiest and most powerful Norse god, acknowledges Thor as the greatest god. It's also worth noting that Thor is also described as the mightiest warrior in all of mythology, and not just his pantheon, which is really a testament to his unmatched strength in combat. Combine all of this with Thor's own feats, it just further solidifies these infinite dimensional tiers of power for Thor in the comics.
Vegeta's strength is clearly influenced by Goku, and they're both rivals in Dragon Ball. Because of this, any achievement by Goku during the series also applies to Vegeta and vice versa. For example, in the Battle of Gods arc in Dragon Ball Super, Goku is able to counter Beerus's energy, which could destroy the entirety of the Universe 7 macrocosm. I've discussed this in several videos, including some recent uploads. And what it boils down to is the realms in the universe are infinitely large, and Goku and Beerus were threatening the existence of these realms. The afterlife is described in the Daizenshu as a higher dimension. This could refer to a spiritual level, but I'll leave that up to you if you interpret it that way. If you see it as a higher spatial dimension, then the afterlife could be considered a fifth dimensional space. Later, Goku and Vegeta face Zamasu, who fuses with the literal timeline itself. This means he affects not just Universe 7, but the entire timeline, even influencing other timelines as shown when he appears in the present, despite being from the future. Goku thinks he might have a chance against Zamasu with a Senzu Bean, suggesting he could potentially harm this infinite entity that consumed the entire timeline. However, Shin claims that Jiren is even a greater threat to this. Merging with the timeline is impressive because it includes 12 of these fifth dimensional structures and can hold at least 18 macrocosms. There's a neutral zone between the universes, as Champa mentions in the Dragon Ball Super manga. Since this area contains infinite fifth dimensional universes, it could scale even larger. So it's reasonable to assume that you could get this to sixth dimensional, whether you view it as a fourth or fifth dimensional. The neutral zone must be higher dimensional to keep these spaces separate. This would require an extra dimension for hypertime, so if you consider the macrocosm to be fourth dimensional, you'd arrive at a sixth dimensional timeline. If we also consider the afterlife as a higher dimension, then Zamasu's feat of engulfing the entire timeline and affecting other timelines could be seen as a seventh dimensional achievement. Goku can fight Jiren and surpass him in this mastered Ultra Instinct form, which then gets overshadowed by the later arcs in the manga. It's quite easy to understand their speed. In the Buu saga of Dragon Ball Z, Kid Buu can move across a galaxy at incredible speeds and destroy an entire galaxy. Even if we assume this destruction took 1,000 years, it would still mean he was moving billions of times the speed of light. Due to the vast size of a galaxy, given this, traversing such distances over a millennium would still result in speeds billions of times the speed of light. And Super, as I mentioned earlier, Goku and Beerus were able to clash and basically create ripples throughout the infinite macrocosm, nearly destroying the entire thing. At first, I would have assumed that these shockwaves wouldn't show their full power, but it does show to be the case a little bit later on. During the Tournament of Power, Goku's power-up was strong enough to shake the entire World of Void, which is an infinite expanse of nothingness. Shaking something infinite would require an enormous amount of power, so even back in the Frieza saga, it was noted that greater power leads to increased speeds. So if Goku can truly shake infinity, it implies his combat speed could be instantaneous. Later in the tournament, it's noted that Jiren transcends time, which could mean that Jiren transcends time-based abilities like hits, or that he could pretty much just actually transcend time altogether. Jiren can fight hit while hit is stopping time, with multiple exchanges happening during these time-stopping intervals, which means that either Goku transcends hit's abilities, and by extension Vegeta, which would make sense because in Dragon Ball, if you're stronger than the hacks, you actually surpass it and it has no effect on you, or that Goku can actually move beyond linear time and have immeasurable speed. In the superhero movie, Jiren actually wasn't that much stronger than Goku or Vegeta, and it's actually stated that he used his power more strategically to gain an advantage. So if you think that Jiren wasn't actually that much stronger than, Goku and Vegeta and by extension Hit, then it would mean that it's less likely that Jiren was actually just outright overpowering the hacks and could be actually beyond linear time.
Thor has a cadre of speed feats throughout his run in Marvel Comics, ranging anywhere from at the very least MFTL Plus, Infinite Speed, and even Immeasurable Speed, which I'll just put on screen. I don't want to spend too much time going over Thor's weird oddities and abilities, so I'll just be brief. He can absorb energy with Mjolnir, use anti-magical energy to nullify things as shown against the Dark God's magical corruption, interact with beings of pure energy, and even BFR his opponents from the battlefield, whether it's in the outer space or a different dimension entirely.
For hacks, Ultra Ego is something that's similar to Kratos' Spartan Rage from God of War. Basically, the more lust Vegeta has for the fight, and the more damage he takes, the stronger he gets. He also needs to be able to fully embrace his Destroyer side and his Saiyan nature. Vegeta is also shown being able to use Hakai and Destruction Energy, but for the sake of the video, we'll assume he can fully use it to its full extent on like a God of Destruction level.
There's also the fact that gods like Hercules can resist total and absolute erasure if their story or figures outside of comics is highly recognized and well known. It's actually why Hercules could resist the light of the House of Ideas. Thor is generally more widely known than Hercules. I don't think anyone's gonna really put that into question or debate that, especially in modern media. So Thor really shouldn't have anything to stress about when it comes to resisting this type of erasure. The House of Ideas itself is described as the source of all that is and where the infinite stories of Marvel Comics are born. So you can really make the argument that this erasure as a baseline is extremely potent in nature, depending on how charitable you are with Marvel's cosmology scaling.
Unfortunately for the Prince of the Saiyans, this would be a victory for the Prince of Asgard. There's definitely some things you could add on to these characters, arguments and such. But getting into the bare bones of what these characters display, Vegeta does fall short. Before the video ends, I'd like if you guys could go check out the Rogue Guy. So if you do like these kind of videos, go show him some support. Be sure to like and subscribe, it helps a ton. And if you want to see more versus battles, be sure to check out my other videos, and bye.